The wedding hall shimmered under golden lights, laughter and chatter echoing like music from another world. Everyone was dressed to perfection, pearls, suits, champagne, and smiles, so polished they almost looked rehearsed. But, amid the perfection, stood Lena, a woman whose trembling hands clutched the microphone like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. Her heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Standing in front of her was Ethan, the man who had once promised her forever, now dressed in a crisp white tuxedo. Standing beside his new bride, Sabrina, who wore smugness like a crown. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ethan said, his voice rich with mockery disguised as charm, "before my lovely wife and I share our first dance, we have a special performance from someone who once knew me intimately." The crowd chuckled softly, unaware of the cruelty beneath his tone. Cameras pointed at Lena, capturing every tremor in her lips, every flicker of pain in her eyes. Lena's pregnancy bump was small but visible beneath her modest blue gown. She looked fragile but fierce, like a woman standing on the ruins of her own heart, daring the world to keep watching. She drew a deep breath and met Ethan's eyes. He smirked, clearly enjoying this, the humiliation, the power. He had told her earlier that week, "You owe me this, Lena." After the chaos you caused. The chaos. That's what he called her pregnancy. Months ago, they'd been happy. At least she thought they were. Ethan was a rising real estate mogul in Chicago, charming, ambitious, and ruthless. Lena had met him when she was working as a music teacher at a small community center. She had believed in his dreams, believed in him. But when she told him she was pregnant, everything changed. He had laughed, not from joy, but disbelief. "You expect me to raise a kid now? You think this fits into my life?" He had snapped. Then came the lawyers, the cold papers, the betrayal that broke her dot, and now, here she was, forced to sing at the wedding of the man who'd once held her at night. Her voice cracked when she began. Soft at first, like a prayer. The room quieted. The melody, one she'd written long ago for Ethan's birthday, filled the air. But the words? They weren't the same. They were raw, sharp, and full of truth. "You said love was forever. But forever had rules. You said I was your future, until pride made you cruel." The guests shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered. Ethan's smirk faltered. Sabrina frowned. Lena's voice grew stronger, rising with emotion she could no longer contain. Her tears glistened under the light, but her tone carried power, the kind that silences judgment. "You built walls out of money. You traded hearts for gold, but when the truth comes calling, even kings lose control." Ethan's jaw tightened. He turned toward the band, gesturing for them to stop. But the pianist, an older man who had watched the scene unfold, shook his head. He kept playing. Lena sang on, her gaze never leaving Ethan's. "You dressed lies in tuxedos, and pain in champagne. But you can't bury love. Ethan, it blooms in the rain." The crowd erupted, not in laughter, but in stunned silence. Lena ended the song with a trembling exhale, setting the microphone down gently. Her hands shook, but her eyes burned with a quiet triumph. Ethan took a step forward, his face pale with anger. "You've made your point," he hissed under his breath. But before he could say more, an older man from the back of the hall stood up. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. "That was beautiful, Miss Lena," he said. "I didn't expect honesty tonight. Not in this place." Everyone turned. It was Richard Coleman, the CEO of the company that had just merged with Ethan's firm. The man Ethan had been desperate to impress. Richard approached Lena with a kind smile. "You wrote that yourself?" She nodded weakly. "Yes, sir." He turned to Ethan, his expression cold. "And you forced this woman, your pregnant ex-wife, to sing here?" Ethan's voice cracked. "It's complicated, sir." "She complicated." Richard cut him off. "No, Ethan, it's character." The room went silent again. Even Sabrina's confidence vanished as she glanced nervously at her husband. Lena lowered her head, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected to be defended, especially not by someone so powerful. Richard looked back at her. "You have a gift," he said gently, "and I'd like to hear more of it someday, but not in a place like this. You deserve better." With that, he turned and left the hall. Others followed, murmuring as they went. Within minutes, half the guests were gone. Ethan's wedding reception, his perfect show, was crumbling before his eyes. Lena took a deep breath, turned to leave, and walked away without another word. Her heart still ached, but for the first time in years, she felt something stronger than pain. Freedom. Outside, the night air was cool, fresh, almost forgiving. She placed a hand on her belly, whispering softly, "We're gonna be okay, baby. Mama's done being afraid." Behind her, the music had stopped, the applause, the laughter, all gone. Inside that golden hall, Ethan was left standing amid shattered pride and echoes of a song he'd never forget. Because, in trying to destroy her, he had exposed himself, and the night that was supposed to celebrate his triumph had become the beginning of his downfall. The next morning, the city felt colder, not because of the weather, but because Ethan's world had begun to crumble. News of the disastrous wedding had spread like wildfire through Chicago's elite circles. Guests had whispered. Journalists had tweeted, and by sunrise, headlines read, "Real estate mogul humiliates pregnant ex-wife, karma strikes back at his own wedding." Ethan sat at his sleek marble dining table, staring blankly at the phone, buzzing with unanswered calls. His new wife, Sabrina, paced the room, furious. "You embarrassed me," she shouted. "In front of everyone. You didn't tell me your ex was pregnant?" He rubbed his temples. It wasn't supposed to go like that. She was just supposed to sing and leave. "I didn't think that's the problem," Sabrina snapped, grabbing her purse. "You never think. You humiliated yourself and me. Richard Coleman has already withdrawn his merger deal. Do you have any idea what that means?" Ethan stood abruptly. "We can fix it. I'll talk to him," she laughed bitterly. "You're finished, Ethan. No one wants to work with a man who abuses a pregnant woman in public. You ruined everything. I married a sinking ship." And with that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard it echoed through the empty house. Ethan sank into a chair, staring at the remnants of his broken life, designer cufflinks, crumpled invitation cards, and a half-empty glass of whiskey from the night before. For the first time, silence scared him. Meanwhile, across the city, Lena sat on the edge of a hospital bed, humming softly as a nurse checked her vitals. She was 7 months along now, and though exhaustion tugged at her, there was a calm strength in her eyes. "Everything looks good, Miss Lena," the nurse said with a smile. "Baby's healthy and strong." Lena smiled faintly. "That's all that matters." As she left the clinic, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Hello, Miss Lena. This is Richard Coleman." Her steps faltered. "Oh, Mr. Coleman, I didn't expect your call. I hope I'm not intruding." His voice was warm, fatherly. "I just wanted to say, I haven't stopped thinking about that song. The honesty, the pain, it moved me. I meant what I said. You have a gift. Have you ever recorded your music?" Lena laughed softly. "No, sir. I can barely afford rent, let alone studio time." "Well," Richard said, "I own a media company too. I'd like to sponsor you, help you record an album. No strings attached." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he chuckled. "The world needs to hear your voice." And just like that, life gave her a door when every window had been shut. Over the next few months, Lena poured her soul into her music. Songs about heartbreak, resilience, and faith. The first track, titled "Bloom in the Rain," went viral on streaming platforms. People connected to her story without even knowing it was hers. The lyrics resonated like a quiet revolution for the broken-hearted. "You can try to silence pain, but it learns to sing." Comments flooded in, stories from strangers saying her music had healed them, given them hope, and as her success grew, Lena stayed humble. She used the money to move into a small but cozy apartment, decorate a nursery, and prepare for her baby's arrival. She often sat by the window, strumming her guitar, feeling the baby kick softly, her heart swelling with gratitude. But fate wasn't done writing her story yet. One gray afternoon, as she walked out of a radio interview, A familiar voice stopped her cold. Lena, she turned. Ethan stood by the curb, disheveled and unshaven. Gone was the polished businessman. He looked like a ghost of the man she once loved. Ethan, she whispered. He gave a broken smile. You look amazing. I heard your song on the radio. She stayed silent. I lost everything, he continued. The merger, the business, Sabrina, even my house. Turns out, when you build your life on pride, there's not much left when it's gone. She crossed her arms, her eyes soft but distant. I'm sorry it ended that way. But you chose this, I know. His voice cracked. I was cruel. I was scared. I didn't want to be a father, but now, I realize it's all I ever wanted. Lena looked at him, her heart tightening. You don't get to say that now. You had a family, you threw it away. He swallowed hard. I just want to be part of the baby's life, please. I don't deserve it, but I need a chance to make things right. For a moment, she saw the man she once loved. Not the arrogant mogul, but a broken soul seeking forgiveness. I'll think about it, she said softly, and walked away. Ethan stood there, watching her go, realizing that for the first time in his life, he couldn't buy redemption. He had to earn it. Later that night, Lena sat by her window, the city lights flickering below. Her phone buzzed again, this time a message from Richard. Tomorrow's charity gala, they want you to perform live. Think you're ready? She smiled, her hand resting on her belly. Yes, she whispered, we're ready. Outside, the snow began to fall, blanketing the world in quiet forgiveness. Inside, a woman once broken was rising again, her voice no longer trembling, but powerful enough to heal not just herself, but everyone who listened. And somewhere across town, Ethan stared at an old photo of him and Lena on the beach years ago, wondering if love, once shattered, could ever be rebuilt. He didn't know it yet, but the next time he'd see her, would be on stage, and this time, her song wouldn't just destroy his pride, it might just save his soul. Under the soft golden lights of the downtown Chicago theater, Lena stood backstage, her trembling fingers brushing over the microphone. The hum of the crowd beyond the curtains filled the air like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat. It had been months since the wedding that changed her life, months of rebuilding, of rediscovering herself through music, and of learning that pain can be the birthplace of power. Her song, Bloom in the Rain, had climbed charts across America. Her story, though hidden behind a pseudonym, had inspired millions. Yet tonight was different. Tonight wasn't about fame or applause. It was about closure. Miss Lena, a stagehand whispered. You're up next, she nodded, her heart pounding. As she walked toward the stage, a familiar ache pulled at her, a memory of the man who had once called her his everything. Ethan. Meanwhile, across the theater, Ethan sat in the last row, hidden beneath a black cap. He had debated coming, but when he saw the flyer for the charity gala, he knew he couldn't stay away. The woman he had destroyed was now the woman the world adored, and he needed to see her one last time. The lights dimmed, the announcer's voice echoed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, Lena Carter. Applause thundered through the hall as she stepped into the spotlight. Her flowing silver dress shimmered under the beams, her belly now gone, her baby safely born 2 months ago. She smiled faintly, knowing her little girl was with a trusted babysitter tonight. Her future already brighter than her mother's past. The first chords of the piano filled the air. The melody was gentle, haunting and familiar. The same one she had sung at Ethan's wedding. But this time, her voice carried something new. Strength, grace, freedom. You tore me down, to watch me fall, but love still found me through it all. The rain came hard, but I still bloomed. You lost me once, and that's your wound. Ethan's breath hitched. Every lyric sliced through him like truth-made melody. Tears welled in his eyes as memories flashed. Lena's laughter, her forgiveness, the moment he'd seen her walk down the aisle that wasn't theirs. In the front row. Richard Coleman smiled proudly. He'd become not just her mentor, but her friend, even a father figure she'd never truly had. Watching her glow on stage, he felt vindicated that kindness and courage could rebuild even the most shattered souls. When the song ended, the audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. Cameras flashed. Lena bowed, tears shining in her eyes. And then, from the corner of her vision, she saw him, Ethan, standing in the back, head bowed, eyes glistening. For a moment, the world fell away. It was just the two of them again. No betrayal, no pain, no audience. Just unfinished words between broken hearts. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Lena slipped into the hallway behind the stage. She leaned against the wall, breathing deeply, when a quiet voice spoke. "You were incredible." She turned slowly. Ethan stood there, hesitant, holding a bouquet of white lilies. They looked fragile in his hands, like something he didn't deserve to hold. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "I know," he murmured. "But I had to see you. I had to say thank you for reminding me what real love looks like, even if it's not mine anymore." Lena looked at him for a long moment. "You broke me, Ethan, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm free." He nodded, eyes glistening. "You deserve the world. And our daughter. She deserves better than the man I was. But if there's ever a way I can be part of her life, even a small one, I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy." Her heart softened. "Her name's Hope," she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Hope. She was born the day I stopped hating you," Lena said. "Because that's when I realized forgiveness isn't for the one who hurt you. It's for the one who wants to live again." He smiled weakly, voice trembling. "Thank you for letting me see her someday," Lena nodded. Someday. As Ethan turned to leave, Richard appeared at the end of the hallway, watching quietly. He had overheard everything. He approached Lena gently, resting a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing," he said softly. Lena exhaled, wiping a tear. "It still hurts." "It will," Richard said. "But pain fades faster when it's met with peace." Ethan disappeared into the night, and Lena walked back toward the stage, her reflection shimmering in the dressing room mirror. She saw not the broken woman who'd once begged for love, but a survivor who had found her voice, and with it, her future. As she removed her earrings, her phone buzzed, a picture from her babysitter. Baby Hope, sleeping peacefully, her tiny hand clutching a stuffed bunny. Lena smiled through her tears. "Mummy's coming home. My little miracle," she whispered. Outside, snow drifted past the city lights again, soft, pure, and forgiving. And in that quiet Chicago night, two people on opposite sides of pain found what they had both been missing all along: redemption. A full year passed since that winter night when Lena's song silenced a ballroom and changed her destiny. Chicago had thawed into spring, and so had her heart. The skyline shimmered in the morning light as she pushed a stroller through the park. The soft laughter of her baby daughter Hope, floating through the air like music. The world knew her name now. Lena Carter, the woman whose song broke hearts and built them back again. Her album had gone platinum, and her foundation for single mothers was changing lives across America. Reporters often asked about the story behind her rise, but she never spoke about Ethan by name. Instead, she simply said, "Some pain becomes purpose if you let it." But today wasn't about interviews or fame. Today was quiet, just her and Hope, and the gentle breeze that carried the scent of spring blossoms as she settled onto a park bench. She noticed a man approaching slowly from the other side of the path. He looked thinner, humbler, dressed in work clothes instead of suits. His once perfect hair was flecked with gray. Ethan. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, Lena smiled faintly. "You found us." He nodded, his eyes soft, no longer burning with pride or regret, just humility. "I didn't want to intrude," he said, "but I kept my promise. I've been working with your charity under another name, helping families who need homes." She blinked in surprise. "You've been volunteering." He nodded again. "At first, it was penance. Then I realized. It's peace." Hope gurgled in her stroller, reaching out a tiny hand. Ethan knelt beside her, his eyes filling with emotion as she grabbed his finger and smiled, so innocent. "So pure. She has your eyes," he whispered. "She has your stubbornness," Lena said softly. They both laughed. The sound fragile but real. Ethan looked up at her. "I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that losing you was the moment I found myself. And I'll spend the rest of my life being a man our daughter can be proud of." Lena studied him, the man who had broken her, now rebuilt by remorse. "You already are," she said quietly. Tears welled in his eyes. He nodded, standing slowly, giving one last glance at Hope. "Thank you," he whispered, as he walked away. The sunlight caught the edges of his worn jacket. The same color as the sky above the city, faded, but still bright. Lena exhaled, feeling an unfamiliar lightness in her chest. Not because of forgiveness, but because of release. She turned back to her daughter, who giggled as a dandelion seed floated by. "Let's make a wish. Baby," Lena whispered, lifting Hope into her arms. "We wish for kindness to find everyone who needs it. Even the ones who once hurt us." The camera of life would have faded out there, a woman holding her child under the spring sun, the wind carrying away the ghosts of the past. But fate had one final note to play. Months later, Lena stood backstage at another charity concert. As she prepared to sing, her assistant handed her a note. It was simple, handwritten, signed with shaky handwriting. "Thank you for giving me the strength to start over. I've opened a home for homeless fathers. It's called Hope's Place, E." Lena pressed the note to her chest, her eyes shimmering with emotion. When she stepped onto the stage that night, her voice was steady, radiant, alive. Every lyric was now a prayer, not for revenge, not for regret, but for renewal. Even the storm can't drown the sun. Even the wound can heal someone. Love's not gone, it just transforms. And in its ashes, something warm. The crowd rose to their feet, clapping through tears as the spotlight dimmed and the final note lingered. Lena whispered into the mic, half to the audience, half to herself, "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means moving forward lighter." The screen would fade to black with a final caption. "Some heartbreaks are blessings in disguise. Kindness always finds its way back."